Good evening, members. We all have gathered here for a study circle meeting on topic importance of internal audit for SMEs. And to dwell upon this subject, we have CA Ranganayakulu sir. Can I request CA Yatish Kumar sir to escort the speaker onto the dais and then welcome him with the floral bouquet. Thank you, Yatish. Thank you, sir. And now I have a privilege in introducing today's speaker. Mr. Ranganayakulu holds multiple professional designations, including being a chartered accountant, CIA, and DISA. With approximately 12 years of experience, he specializes in delivering risk management, process reengineering, and other risk assurance services to clients. He is a partner at Brahmaya & Co., leading risk assurance practice. Prior to Brahmaya & Co., he spent around 7 years working with prominent Big Four consulting firms in India. During his tenure there, he successfully managed clients from various industries such as automobile, technology, retail, and manufacturing, including conducting internal audits and providing risk consulting services to emerging unicorns in sectors like food aggregation and news aggregation. His expertise lies in several key areas, namely risk-based internal audits, internal financial controls, SOX 4040, ISO 27001-2013, financial due diligence, and ERP audit. With this brief introduction, I present before you CA Ranganayakulu sir. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Is it readable, the font? Good evening, everyone. Mic. Close. Is it audible? Yeah, it's it. I thank Bangalore Branch for giving me this opportunity to present on one of the important topics. I think it's much needed because a lot of our members are busy with the tax audits, but still they're finding some time to attend this seminar or study circle meeting. And the topic is something which is not so, important for the chartered accountants over the years. It's only because we have been having expertise in stat audit, because we are all our experts in accounting standards, auditing standards, tax. So these are all our core areas. I think the body chartered accountants also, the moment you ask after qualifying, they say that we are going to go for a statutory audits for finance and accounts. So I need something like finance rules. And maybe like me or some of my colleagues, somebody chosen a different path, which is going to the internal audits. So one thing I feel that for the chartered accountants are rightly skilled to become internal auditors, because not only the finance knowledge we have various other subjects as well, including the tax. You know the accounting background, you have management skills, and you have put a lot of effort to clear the CA exams. That's what the persistence is required when you are conducting internal audits, because it's something day in, day out. You have to sit with the process owners and persuade the things, convince them, and finally you have to come up with an evaluation points. So giving that as a brief, coming into the topic, the importance of internal audit for SMEs. I think going by the SME's definition, so up to 250 crores of the turnover is something is going to be covered part of this. But based on my experience, I think that even those companies which is of a 500 crores turnover also is not really taking that importance what is required for internal audits. Because still they are very immature stage of thinking doing a business and not really bothered about internal controls. When there is an internal control, obviously monitoring is required. That's where internal audit comes into the picture. But unfortunately, for everyone, obviously, their business is a matters, profit is a matters, but how sustainable it is going to be in a long run. Today you have a 50 crores turnover, tomorrow it can be 100, maybe after that 1000 crores, maybe you can go for IPO, you can go for a venture capital, whatever. But are you really capable or sustainable enough to meet those growing demands of your business needs? If you don't have a proper base, what you call as a foundation, then obviously whatever you are going to construct, either is a services or a products, obviously it is not going to sustain that kind of a speed of a growth. So that's where the backbone of this entire, whatever the manufacturing setups or service industries which they have been set up a various process, that's where the internal control is coming into the picture. I think that's where majority of our clients or even those people are up to 500 crores turnover not really realizing it. So taking that as a note, let's get into the details of it. I think majority of the members knows what is an MSE, SME. I need not to explain about what qualifies as SME or what exactly the features about it, but just for the benefit of everyone, what is this SME and how it is contributing to the economy and how it is important. Because before we are understanding or getting into the topic of internal audit importance for SMEs, let's understand SMEs importance to the economy. So first one, maybe I just given here also the points. If you see in Indian organizations, majority, I think our members also would have an experience of having a lot of clients in stat audits or tax or consultancy. A lot of them are SMEs. You have very few companies which is at a larger size of more than 500 crores or 1000 crore turnover, and also the MNC companies. So I think the largest employment is created. This is the largest I think the second largest employment has been created in India. So I think close to 11.5 crores employment has been created through the SMEs. So we cannot ignore this, the contribution to the SME, to the economy by these small and medium-sized companies. And also if you see, whatever the MNC companies in India or manufacturing organizations, you have some other things in their supply chain, these SMEs. Without SMEs, you are not going to survive, because we have a good amount of larger clients. They have in their supply chain a lot of small organizations, which is a 10 crores turnover, even 50 crores, even 100 crores. Because MNC companies also is depending on these SMEs, or even a large manufacturing companies also depending on these SMEs. So in a way, this is not only for their survival, it is also for the survival of big companies as well. Because if these small companies or medium companies are going out of their supply chain, the bigger companies are going to struggle, because they obviously the manufacturing cost is going to go up, or all those supply chain inefficiencies come into the picture, and ultimately you are not going to survive. So that is also one of the important aspects when you are talking about SMEs. So since we are talking about SMEs features, because this is something very highly unorganized. This I need not to explain, because you will see every part of the pan-India level. If you see, there is a concentration like a Tamil Nadu, Rajasthan, or you have a Gujarat. Various industries have been, SMEs have been put in place. So it is like very highly unorganized. There is a humongous number of SMEs which is having a small turnover to the bigger turnover. And also one more thing we have to see is that these MSMEs are, it's like what as per the MSME website, 6.5 crore lakhs, I mean 6.5 lakh, or those numbers what has been given, I think it's only registered numbers in a MSME website. So 6.5 crores of an MSMEs which we have registered in the website under the website, which is also ultimately there are so many non-registered MSMEs which is not coming into the supply chain. So that is also another important aspect, because when you see employment opportunity and everything, we are only talking about registered cases, but unregistered there are so many, which is very highly unorganized. And another important feature is that these are all family owned. This is something they started part of the family, and they slowly got into the various services or productions. They slowly started growing. When they started with the 10 lakhs, they slowly grow. So it's basically, you will see majority of the cases, I think more than 90% is started with their family. They have a little savings, start and grow. Then obviously MSME, we started some like 2006, the regulation comes into the picture. Now this is monitoring all these MSME related matters. It's like a protection to the MSMEs, because now the government of India is understanding the importance of these MSMEs, and various regulations, various protections has brought into the picture, so that these MSMEs in the starting itself, they're not going to shut down. As I mentioned, so obviously these MSMEs have been concentrated in specific places. There are specializations. If you see in Tamil Nadu, you have a lot of textile companies, and you have seen in Rajasthan, you have a lot of handicrafts. So obviously these are also brought to the GDP contribution close to 30%. You can say that. And then low technology adoption. This is also another feature. Why I'm saying it is a negative thing, but this is also an important feature, is because they are totally depending on the manual process or like a manual activities. Technology adoption is something, except the e-commerce companies, you will not see much into the technology adoption. Let it be of their machinery, or let it be of their selling their products or reaching to the customers, not so tech savvy. Even though government of India is taking a lot of efforts and a lot of schemes they are bringing to develop these skills and adopting these technologies, but still it is not been happening. That is one of the concerns, we can see that. And also we can see, if you go to the MSME website, there are close to 30-35 schemes are there, which is for the benefit of our MSMEs. I think some of them, even the company themselves, they would have not seen. There are a lot of schemes which is benefiting in terms of the skill development, in terms of the credit or financing, or even certain benefits or incentives have been given. Various schemes have been given. I think when I was going through it, I was also thinking these various schemes are there for MSMEs. Are these companies are really utilizing this, or is something on the practically it is possible on the floor, or somebody is getting benefit out of it? So 30-35 schemes is not a small thing. I don't think this kind of benefits or incentives you don't see for any other organizations. So that's where we can understand that the importance of SMEs for the economy. I think with that sense of introduction to the MSA, where we can get into the slightly of what are the challenges they are facing. Because I'm just trying to go into the topic slowly, is because once we understand what is MSME companies and what are those challenges, then we'll get into the internal audit. Without understanding that, if I straight away get into the internal audit, it's like any other company, of a small company or big company. Internal audit doesn't really make any difference. It's going to be the same process you're going to follow, but when it is in a MSME, there is a difference in the approach which you are going to follow. So with that, we start. What are the challenges these SMEs are facing? It is something, again, everybody in day and day out we are seeing it. When we are doing audits of whichever maybe the consultancy you are doing it, you will somehow or the other way hear out from the promoters of the organization or the senior management of the organizations what and all they are facing. This is something I am trying to make it a practical. This is not something of what has been theoretically discussing about SMEs in the various forums. So practically, if you see the human resources, the first challenge is for the SMEs. Because since SMEs is something of a small organizations, today if you are going to the market and asking the people, per se you are a chartered accountant, you got an offer from an SME and you got an offer from an MSC company. Which one you choose? So without any doubt, you are going to go to MSC companies. Again, IT companies, a lot of competition is there. There is too much of a competition where this SME sometimes it will be killed with lack of manpower or skilled manpower, because manpower is available everywhere, but skilled manpower is something is very much important. That's where these SMEs are really falling behind, and they are struggling every time, because for their manufacturing activities and support functions, you are not really having that support. And also maybe because this we cannot take as a drawback from the SMEs, because the other side also, if you see, the talent pool which they have to join to the SMEs, what is that incentive you are going to get it? What is that something career development you are going to get it? What is the career growth you are going to get it? These are all things everybody evaluates, it's a common sense. Because these companies are highly unorganized, everything promoter decides, and if they say that fire this guy, they fire it. If you give 10% hike to this guy, you give it. If you give a promotion, this one person decides everything. Maybe the family, extended family decides. This is not only within these companies, when startups also this kind of setups you see it. In that scenario, how the really for developing establishing a kind of a strong team, is it possible? So that is the biggest challenge which I feel the human resources. Where it's a service entity, this is going to be a greater issue. If it is a manufacturing organization, obviously you have to have the skilled manpower. Is the engineering team, let it be, or is going to be the marketing team. Somebody should be specialized and should be available and they can sell the product and manufacture the product. So that is something, one of the challenges which I see, because why I am saying this challenge is subsequently when we are discussing internal audit, why it is important, and also how you have to do the internal audit, what is the approach you have to follow. These are all something which is going to be important. Without understanding these challenges, somebody does the internal audit of an MSME, it's going to be very difficult because you cannot apply the same methodology approach of internal audit for all the organizations. Second one is going to be the supply chain issues. I think this is also one of the very big challenge for them, because considering their the level of a procurement, you will not have a lot of suppliers on your kitty. You have to go with a reliable suppliers who are giving a credit period, considering my customer requirements. All those things I have to take into the call, and I don't have much of a negotiating power. So when I don't have that, then I have to fall prey to the supplier. So resultantly what happens, because ultimately my product has to be a quality one and I have to sell it to my customers. But for that, the survival is to be on a suppliers again. These suppliers not like unlike MNC companies where you have a huge number of people at the MNC company disposal, these people supply. But here the other way around. So in that scenario, how is that you are going to procure at a very cost effective manner, timely procurement, and filling your supply chain and supplying to the customer? It's very difficult. But still, there are some companies are doing very good in this kind of things. There are some companies that succumb to various events like a COVID, which you have seen. With the COVID, many companies have been wiped out. Only because we don't have the scalability of limited reachability our own, like I'm an apartment, my neighborhood is supporting to me for manufacturing or servicing and supplying to my customers. I don't know anything beyond my community apartment, unlike reachability of our MNC companies. As I said, like a dependence on a few suppliers is also one of the important challenges. And access to the finance. I think we spoke previously that how the government of India is really encouraging these companies, but at the end of the day, is it really practically happening on the floor? If you ask any promoter, they say that, boss, I have a fantastic idea and I have this is the financials and all these things are there, but I am not getting the proper support from the banks. Because as I said, one of the schemes which says that you can just go to any bank under e-Mudra scheme, you can get the loan. You support whatever the KYC documents, and it's a very simple process, that's what they're explaining. But in the reality, that is not true. Are you really getting an easy access to the finance? That is one of the challenges which you see that. And obviously, when we are not getting this, you will go to the very unstructured, very informal sources of your loans. Obviously, it comes with a higher interest rates. When these higher interest rates and everything has been already been sitting on their head, how is that you are going to give your product at a lower cost, which is already you have a lot many competitors. Not only from India, you will have the players from global also, if your product is in that line of a business. So then, cash flow issues. I think we have seen where MSME Act says that you have to have the payment protections are there. Within 45 days you have to pay, otherwise interest you have to pay. Otherwise now income tax also come with that. You are going to get a deduction only after making a payment. Otherwise you are not going to get the allowance of those expenses. This is very good on the paper. I think maybe the members who are sitting here, how many of you really accepting this fact that because of 45 days, they are promptly making a payment? I think only the listed companies, because of their regulatory requirements or reporting requirements, they are making a payment. Because independent directors and everybody is there. The private companies, all those people, obviously they are not making a payment. 45 days is something reasonable, but you are not really making a payment. Obviously, it impacts the cash flow issues or working capital issues of your MSMEs. Now, in this scenario, competition with your global counterparts is very difficult. whatever on the floor we are talking about, that this many encouragements we are giving it, this many payment protections we are giving it, but with that, if it is not happening on the floor, everything goes for a toss. Because this is also another important thing when we are doing an internal audit, how we are going to approach this. Because if you straightforward and goes and says that was your product is not quality one, you are not selling at a right rate and all these things, which is very, very difficult to convince the promoters. Because promoters say that, boss, this is not something I am looking for from internal audit. You understand my business, understand my challenges, and something you support. If you don't do this and if you don't understand these challenges, straight away get into the your own methodology of internal audit comes, process, risk controls and all this is, nobody is going to bother about it. That's why when somebody says that the importance of internal audit, is it something a value added activity or is it a compliance activity? It is being decided by the promoters of the organization in MSMEs. You cannot decide the value of that. If it is a larger organization, so obviously there is a structure where everything you do it, obviously it is derived. It is in a template which has been clearly mentioned. Here there is no template as such. So then external environment and customer base, we have seen the pandemic. I think it is a lot of organizations where when we are doing audit of our larger organizations, they were facing a lot of supply chain issues is because these SMEs are not really able to cope up and they've already closed their entities. Because these companies or larger manufacturing companies are depending on them, but they are unable to supply because they have their own cash flow issues. So this kind of an events which is something has been happening and hitting hard on them because they are having like a hand-to-mouth kind of a situations. They will not be able to survive for 1 year or 6 months without any cash inflow. So in that scenario, obviously that's one of the challenges you have to live with that. And how to type that challenge is something where it is depending on how promoters are so looking forward. If it is your short sign, so obviously you are going to face the problems. And lack of customer diversification. So if I think I am again seeing from the larger companies, there are, when we are seeing their the vendor base of larger companies, there is small players. This larger company is going to contribute 50-60% of their business. So that means SMEs are depending on these larger companies for a majority of their business. The moment if something is hitting badly to the larger manufacturing company, then you are also going to get hit. So the diversification is not been happening. You are unable to reach to the market, maybe globally or within India itself. Are you able to diversify, have a larger customer base so that you are not depending on a particular customer? Because there is a study also which says that more than 20% of the SMEs in India are depending on a single customer. So this is one of the biggest threat. But still, they don't have an option. So they have a limited resources and limited reachability and limited innovation. Because of all these things, obviously you have to depend on the customer and what he says, you have to follow it. Then quality and standards, if you see, a lot of these organizations having innovative products. If you, I think you will get even Facebook or this kind of things also, you will get a very innovative products advertisements. But at the end of the day, are you really able to sell this to the customers? Let it be e-commerce or to your the manufacturing companies or service organizations or an individual customer base. How you are going to establish the credibility of this product? Because another thing is to support is this, you have to have something in a quality standard certifications. Even though really what happens under this quality certifications, that is a different story, but these quality certifications attest the product quality. And you as a customer don't want to just go and buy some product which doesn't even have any such sort of certifications. Because you see ISI trademark, right? Why? Is because somebody has certified this and it's good to go. But if that is not there, obviously you are not going to survive. So similarly, this SMEs also, a lot of innovative products, but they have failed to have this quality certifications. Because majority of the organization says that my USP is going to be the quality of a product. USP is a uniquely proportional selling basically. So which is ultimately a kind of their bread and butter. If you are not maintaining that quality, you are going to be thrown out. Despite that, there is a study which says that more than 50% of the SMEs doesn't bother about quality standards. I always say myself that my product is going to be a quality one and I have a customer base, I am selling it to them. I am not reaching to the wider market because I don't have certifications and I am not bothered also. And IPR issues. I think this is one of the important things. There is a study, again, why I am putting all this thing is because the number itself says that the awareness and the kind of the challenges which the organizations are facing. Only 50 to 20% of the organization in India knows IPR and protect it. Because even there is a scheme also from MSME which says that if you are going for a patent or registration, anything, is that any expenses which has been incurred, you are going to get a reimbursement from the government of India. But as I said, you have a lack of skilled manpower and you don't really understand how you are going to protect yourself in innovation, and obviously finally lead into some bigger company hands of your innovative product. So these are all some challenges. Again, it is not exhaustive. I think when you are doing audit of these SMEs, you will see a lot of challenges. I just brought few of them, which is I think how we can deal in the subsequent internal audit approach. So now, having heard of what is SME and what are the challenges, now we get into the internal audit. So again, as I said, this is an offbeat topic for members of the institute, is because our focus areas for ages is something that's different. Stat audit, tax, consultancy, or law, practice, or all those things. Internal audit is something that's offbeat for them. So for their benefit, I'm just trying to read out. This is a definition from the Institute of Internal Auditors. This is the essence of what internal audit is about. This entire 6-7 lines of a definition tells that what internal audit has to do with, how it is different from other activities of like stat audit or a tax or all those things. So internal auditing is an independent objective assurance and consulting activity designed to add value and improve an organization's operations. And it helps an organization to accomplish its objectives by bringing a systematic, disciplined approach to evaluate and improve the effectiveness of risk management, control and governance process. The one which I put it in a bold, which will tell the characteristics and what is to expect from the internal audit. It is an independent. So it is something obviously like stat audit. It is an independent person, like maybe an outside consultant or maybe within the organization itself. You are going to have an independent person who is going to evaluate this. You are not part of any of the functions. And it's an objective assurance. Basically the internal audit is going to be the first activity, first characteristic is going to be the assurance of your internal controls, that your risks have been mitigated and appropriate controls have been established and you are good to go. That is the assurance which is going to be given from the internal audit side. That's the first activity. Then it is also said that it is a consulting activity. Unlike in a stat audit, where we are concerned about regulatory requirements and financial statements and reported to stakeholders. Here, it's a consulting activity. You are going to work with the promoters, the stakeholders, the people part of the business. If that is another important aspect of internal audit. Without this is basically a USP, you can say that. Even though we are wearing a hat of an assurance provider, still the consulting is going to be there behind. And improve an organization operations. This is the ultimate important thing, is that unlike other audits, which they are concerned about the numbers, not the process. Because if your company is making a loss, I am not bothered. Not bothered in the sense because that's not the concern, that's not your expect. You are not expected from the stat auditors or other regulatory bodies. But the internal audit is something which is an extended arm of a management, which is being expected to deliver something in improvement to the organization operations. Again, it's not internal audit is just taking this as a kind of a responsibility and doing it. There should be a reciprocation from the organization side also. Because if I say that, boss, I have a lot of knowledge, experience, and I will transform your entire operations and process, I would ultimately, if you don't get any support, that is going to be most likely because the promoters or someone who says that you don't teach me. That kind of an attitude you are going to have. So in that scenario, you are, as an internal auditor, as a consultant, you are going to be very difficult in a situation where how to convince. Even though you have a right theory, a right approach, but are you really making a point and convincing the promoters, ultimately the owners of the business? So as I said in the second paragraph, where obviously for any organization, profit making is going to be an important thing. If I come and give a suggestion which is a loss making, anybody accepts. So if any organizations which is having an objective of not profit making, but this should not be something by default, because I have some sort of a passage and water is just going and it is serving my agriculture fields. But I have designed this properly, I have enough protections, then construct something like a dams or whatever just to maintain this sustainable and grow further. Since you are having all this good rain and everything today and good rain base and it is free flowing and you are getting enough water and accordingly you are cultivating. As long as you do this and if you wanted to scale up, it's very difficult because so far you are going with the flow. But suddenly one day you come and say that, boss, I am going to take another 100 acres of cultivation and I am going to survive with this water. Is it possible when you don't have that level of storage of water? That's what is going to happen. I am making a profit today and I am having a good product. But today I am selling 100 units. Tomorrow when I am going for 1,000 units and increasing the customer base, will I be able to survive this growth? Because I have to have the manufacturing facility and I should have the marketing division and I should have the supply chain. All this things has to happen, including logistics, and then finally deliver the product. So the short-term plans of making the money without setting up a proper process and putting the right people into the right place, you are not going to sustain. Even if you are sustaining, it is just like maybe of a luck, we can say that. So that is just brief introduction. I wanted to see that if you for an internal audit, the next is something which IA applicability. So this is, everybody knows. Why I put this as a specific reason is that it's because in SMEs and even I said of more than 500 crores turnover companies also, they only see this as a compliance requirement. If it is falling into that category, then let's appoint the internal auditors. Otherwise, I don't need really much. Why? Because there is an awareness gap. What internal audit can tell you what? Because audit, there is the suffix is there, right? Audit. Then everybody will carry away with this audit. As I said, internal audit or internal auditor, even the name suggests that, is like a consultant. I think we should not call ourselves, if you are wearing a hat of internal auditor and a consultant to the organization, you should call yourself as a consultant rather as an auditor. The moment you say auditor, from a security gate till promoter, you are scaling them. Because that word itself is having a lot of weightage and a lot of background. The moment audit says that, somebody is coming to pinpoint us. So I think that is a small approach, because when we meet the clients also, they say that, boss, don't scare us. And my people, especially in SMEs, are not so qualified enough. And not so, even though they have experience, they are not really well versed with what is happening with the outside industry. And if you suddenly come and talk all these jargons and everything, obviously I'm going to scare. So don't do that. So you live with us, you align with us and give some benefit to us. That's what they expect. So as I said, the compliance is going to be predominantly, if it is crossing all these numbers of turnover or paid up capital or borrowings, then obviously they say that come on to the audit. That's what is happening, because a lot of clients we have, they come and say only this purpose. They will not have any objective behind that why they have to do the internal audit. So I think that approach has to be changed. I think some of our members, if they are part of the industry, if they are leading some SMEs, finance functions, I think they should educate the internally also that it is not only for a compliance purpose, it is also having some value-added benefits. So as I said, like private companies, this limit is there, and public listed companies, unlisted companies we have. But another important factor we should remember here is that the IFC requirements. Even though you are not crossing the 200 crores of a turnover, IFC start applicable to you more than 50 crores. The moment you cross a 50 crore, the responsibility has been placed on the directors, the responsibility is placed on the stat auditors to comment, and that's where suddenly the company will wake up. I have some requests in the current year from the organizations. Their stat auditors have been asked that of IFC controls testing report. Then client is coming and says that, can you give me 1-page report? It looks so funny because without understanding the objective behind of what is this audit or what purpose they have been brought into all these regulations, and they wanted to satisfy the stat auditors. Obviously the stat auditors, they wanted to safeguard themselves, and they goes with, okay, somebody is certifying it, tomorrow something happens from the internal control standpoint, I will take that as a shelter. Nothing wrong in it. But here, who is really being a scapegoat or really not is something benefited is the company. I will get my fee for supporting. Stat auditors have been safeguarded. What is that the company has done? This is a pure lack of awareness. instead of waking up the end, if you are putting this robust processes or slowly getting into the streamlining, obviously you do not have to bother about the compliance activities, because eventually that compliance will happen. Obviously cargo also. So this is, I think, from the current year, where even larger organizations, where half the companies more than 1,000 crore, they don't have proper internal control procedures. They don't have proper processes which has been set up in the organizations. Now the stakeholders are having a big time to say that how they are going to safeguard, because if they want, if something is not really happening, they have to qualify, and obviously client will not accept. Then they say that boss, you get the internal item when after completing the financial year. So how this is going to happen? This is again funny, right? So because you have 500,000 crore turnover and somebody is not realizing this and asking for a compliance certificate. It's like a compliance certificate they're asking. And you have to prepare something and you have to give it to them and they are satisfied. Because in today's Claro's requirement, it is not only this. Earlier was a clause which says that whether you have an internal control system commensurate with the size of the business. That's what they used to left there. Now they're saying, have you accessed the internal audit reports? And are you finding any gaps in that? That's what something the stakeholders are really concerned. So they are specifically asking internal audit reports, you give it to us, signed report you give it to us with UD number, and then if at all concerns are there, then they are going to point out. Internal auditors are pointing out so this thing is, and I am not going to take this, it's a qualification issue for me. A simple physical verification is not been done, that's what I say. There is no process has been put in place, there are gaps, blah blah blah. Then obviously why the stakeholders are by this? Then they come strongly on this. Then these guys will come and say that boss, you do something, you remove this observation, and finally I'll give to the stakeholders. This is something in a compliance game. Ultimately, who is really losing all this thing is the client. They will pay good fee to the internal auditor, they don't get a benefit. I will tell you a lot of clients, boss, when you are hiring me as an employee, you are not even getting that extent benefit. Then what for you hiring me? You are wasting your resources. Already you are having a lot of cost issues or cost constraints, and again on top of that you are putting one more consultant. Like me, for various regulatory requirements, a lot of consultants are there. So the company is something without understanding the in and out of it, because they have a lack of skills. Promoter is a person who is a technical guy, doesn't understand this, ask someone senior person to manage it. They'll manage it. It goes on like this. So I'm just giving a regulatory and the compliance requirement background, because if somebody is missing also, because ultimately whether you are improving your business or process or not, at the end of the day you have to have compliance with this. At least for that purpose they are going to come. So before dwelling into the importance of internal audit, and I think once we should maybe a little brush up on the what is external audit and what is internal audit. Because some of our members also still confused. Because I met a few of the members in our industry who are leading a finance controller or a CFO functions. Still they are not able to differentiate between the internal audit and stat audit. Auditor came, that's all. Again, internal audit is having various caps. I have IFC auditor, I have internal auditor of a processes, operational process, I have third party auditors, I have vendor auditors, and I have IT auditors. A lot of internal auditors are there, a lot of caps are there. But this is nothing to do with everything. There is an auditor. The moment when you have this kind of a knowledge gap, obviously like you are going to go buy some product, you don't have any idea of that, the information of that product, and obviously will you be able to negotiate? You will not be able to negotiate. You have to just fall to what the seller says. Similarly, what the consultant says, that's what you have to follow. So I just wanted to highlight what is external audit and what is internal audit, so that I think this is one of the points which we have to educate the promoters also. Was what internal audit does. There's a few things, whether ultimately the field you are going to get a benefit or not. Once you test the consultant, you will understand. Otherwise, these are all something of possible benefits you are going to have compared to the statutory audit. So maybe I have given in the left hand side the external audit, where scope is limited in the sense, see, you are given already a kind of a regulatory requirement what you have to do for stakeholder protection. That is going to be the stat audit. Internal audit, unlike, you can write anything under this things, whatever is available in your organization. You can ask him to do even a security documentation, whatever is there in and out daily, people are coming and going out. You can ask the internal auditor to review that if you have any concern. There is no defined perimeter that this is only you have to cover. Even if your stat auditors comes and says that whether you have covered a sufficient, whether you have internal control system, commensurate with your size of the business, that's where you have to convince that what exactly we have in our place. You have to counter that. If you don't have any information, obviously if stat auditor says that this is what is not good, I am going to take that. So scope is something is a wider, and if there is a learned person from the organization side, he is really going to take the benefit of this. If they don't understand this, then they say that you do whatever you want and give us a report. That report, what is there, nobody bothers. Then performed by independent third party. So obviously it is a regulatory appointment of the stat auditors. But it comes to the internal audit. Again, here the organizations has to understand is that no need to be outside person. You can have a full-time employee in your own organization. They can review they can set up the internal control system, they can review they can do the internal audits. So that should be a qualified person. Again, the qualified person is an open thing, like a chartered accountant we are thinking, or a cost accountant we are thinking, but other than that, there are so many technically qualified people who can do the internal audits. That depends on which area you are going to do it. But this is something, if you see today, majority of the people, the SMEs will reach to a chartered accountant only for internal audits. They think that you come and do my compliance and financial statement audit, whatever finance and accounts, and my internal audit is over. They are not thinking in their remote thought process also that internal audit means I can get the other technical person also into things. Because if I wanted to do a plant optimization or resource optimization, a chartered accountant is a capable person for that. Is something is a concern. But that who has to understand when they are appointing the promoter or the organization has to understand. They don't understand. They call chartered accountant, you do whatever you want and give us a report. That's the lack of knowledge which I feel. And obviously audit report which you have to do in a specific format for a stat auditor, but in internal audit. You can make anything. I will send today a kind of a mail that this is what my observation for last 10 days, last 1 week. And I will give a detailed fantastic report. Anything you can give, as long as it is conveying the whole output of your report, the audit to the user. There is no defined formats, but a lot of details is going to be captured here. If you see stat audit as a report, they are having a defined format, they are going to, if it has something to be qualified, they are going to be qualified. But internal audit, you are going to write which is whatever is coming to you on the way of reviews. But that is something in a business sense or a business objective it has to be put in place. And to whom it is important to stat audit? Mostly for the stakeholders. But internal audit, there are a lot many stakeholders have been involved in it. Because it is something, it is not for the external people. That's where when I am going to the client for internal proposal or convincing the promoters for having the internal audit in their place, I tell them that boss, this is something I am not coming from an external agency. I am part of your organization, I am extended arm, and I am going to work with you. And I am going to tell what is wrong in this, what is good at it, and what is something is going to be good. So don't think that this is I am going to take this and give it to some regulatory and they are going to write it. There's nothing is going to happen. There's the fear, there is a kind of a conception today the organizations are having. They think the moment these guys are coming in some report, this report is going to be published everywhere in the internet and everybody is going to read and they are going to start harassing us. That is not the good concept. And some of the promoters doesn't even understand that this report, whether it should be read or not to read. That's the kind of an awareness which we are going to have subsequent slides which talks about the internal awareness among the organizations within the management itself that we will see. Then obviously stat audit for this SMEs, nothing required if it is unless it is a listed company, you have to do on a quarterly basis, once in a year you do it. So you will come at the end of the year, you do stat audit and tax audit and goes off. But internal audit, there is no frequency. You can ask them to sit here 365 days, you can ask them to do 4 times, you can ask them to do whatever the number of times, and you can ask them whatever need to be covered. There is no hard and fast rule here. So then, it is, obviously it is a finance, talking about a stat audit is a, how you are, because whatever the activities have been done, the financial information is somebody certifying it. That's what the stat audit does. But internal audit has not been called only for a financial statements. That is also one of the area, but that is not the only area. You can ask operationals, you can ask compliance, you can ask financial reporting, you can ask anything. You can ask them to do it if they are capable of it. So this will tell that I am not demeaning this stat audit because they have their own specific responsibilities and accordingly they are delivering it, and there is a lot more value to the stakeholders and they are properly assessing what is the performance of the organization. But unlike stat audit, internal audit carries a lot of responsibilities, and this only goes well when the organization is understanding it. If organization is not understanding this, then again it is going to be like a stat audit. What stat audit does, internal audit also does the same thing, and you give the report and we get this place. So just given a few points, there is few differentiators we can understand what is internal audit, what is stat audit. Maybe some of the members when they are meeting their prospective clients or if they are already part of the SMEs, they can think through this, how we can best utilize this internal audit function. If you have any questions, maybe you can stop me, you can ask, maybe in stuff at the end, you can stop at any point of time. Having said that, what is something internal audit and what are the differences between the external audit and internal audits? Now we get into the primary question of why these SMEs don't consider internal audits. That's a straightforward question. If I am asking just a promoter or a senior management, a CFO or CEO or someone, was tell me why is that you don't consider internal audits? You will list 100 things. I have just given few here, which will ultimately tell, because all these things will tell in a way that how the internal audit has been perceived, how they are looking at the internal audit. One is an awareness gap. Second, already they tested, it is not really being felt worth, that's why they thrown out. That's why they are not really bothered about internal audit. So the first one we can see that why they don't do it is because of cost concerns. Because obviously they are already in a tight budgets. So by having another consultant, even though that depends, if you are hiring in a big MNC consulting company, you are going to charge something, and you are having a smaller organizations, you are going to charge something, but ultimately it comes with a cost. Anything which you are taking a fee, obviously it is in a compliance certificate. So the whole purpose is that the first one they say that, boss, I don't have a budget to take the internal audit. So that's a simple thing. If it is in a compliance requirement, I'll pay some chartered accountant or someone who can certify it, give me the certificate for that, maybe 50,000 or something like that, if somebody is accepting it. So that's the first concern which they say that always. Second is an awareness gap, which is a fundamental asset. I think so far I've given examples which tells what is the awareness gap. Because the promoter is a technical guy and the person who is sitting in the finance role, generally these SMEs are not so, can afford to be qualified people. They'll go with some like a become graduate or become graduate MBAs or someone who have grown in the ladder and they become in a senior positions if they have. Obviously, I am not saying that they are not knowledgeable, they are knowledgeable, but when it comes to certain matters, obviously they will be not really having idea of what has to be done. Because otherwise what happens, if you don't have awareness, whatever other person says, you have to believe. It is a statutory requirement, yeah, statutory requirement. You have to give a certificate or a report, that you decide. Which scope has to be covered, that you decide. Which format observations I have to give, a report I have to give, you decide. Likewise, all these things goes. Everything derails. The whole fundamental objective of an internal audit will goes for a toss. So that awareness is fundamentally one of the important things. On the subsequent slide, I have the details of it. There is a survey has been conducted by the Institute of Internal Auditors, which tells in Asian companies what is the awareness we have with respect to the various internal audit things. And fear of negative findings. So this is when I am going and doing some, even like a 300 foreign course turnover companies also, which is not so mature in their process. When you go for audit, the first thing I see the fear in there, like a stat auditor. Similarly, internal auditors also have been considered, and they will not be transparent at all. The only reason is because you are here to focus, you are here to pinpoint us, you are going to find fault with us, and you are going to tell to the management that these are all gaps in my process. So obviously somebody is leading a finance function, somebody is leading a procurement function, sales functions. If you go and find out all these issues and put it in a report and give it to the management, ultimately they are the consumers of this report. So what happens? Then there is your performance evaluation issues, all those things comes into the picture. So the fear of negative findings, which is going to be the biggest problem. That's where the resistance starts. They don't support. They will take the shelter of the promoter, some other will convince, and finally the whole objective of internal auditor will be derailed. Short-term focus. As I said, all these SMEs, are they really having a shorter vision or a longer vision? They are having always shorter vision, not only for their business needs, even for the other aspects also. They will go with a very, very short-term goals. Today what I have to do it, tomorrow I'll see tomorrow. That's required sometimes when you wanted to run in your business, obviously you have to be there in that. But that has been applied everywhere. The moment you do that, then I'm not going to lose anything as an internal auditor, as a consultant. You are paying and you are losing, that's all. So this is also one of the factor why they don't really consider internal audits. And ownership structures. So you would have seen generally as a promoter-driven companies, like extended family members only will be leading various functions. They say what has to run in this organization. So if somebody like an extended family member is leading a procurement function, and now you're expected to do an internal audit and you touch the procurement function and comes with negative issues, then what is going to happen? Will they accept? So this is also one of the hurdles why they don't really consider internal audits. And lack of stakeholders demand is because where you is in a big company, a public company or a listed company, a lot of directors are there, external parties are there, investors are there, all these people are going to come and ask for assurance. You tell us my organization is doing good or not doing good, not only the profit and all these things, and whatever the products I am selling it is going, proper quality is going out, and I am properly having my customer support and my supply chain things have been properly managed. All these things they are going to ask. The moment you don't have these external stakeholders or the person who are going to ask the questions, then it is a promoter who is going to define what has to be done. So since this SMEs are small companies, obviously will not have all the stakeholders, and it is in the hands of the promoters. And cultural barriers. There are some companies which I've seen when I've practically been to the clients, some of the employees who are there in the organization for 15, 20 years, suddenly because of a turnover issue or whatever, now internal audit has been going to be mandatory. Or maybe some of the aspiring promoters, they wanted to set up a proper process. The moment you call this internal auditors, this a kind of an internal cold war starts, that the management is not believing the employees. If somebody is asking to go and do the procurement function audit, the employees of that particular function says that now management is not believing us, and they are putting some external agency to look into all these things. So it's a lack of trust on us. That's how they are going to take it. It's a kind of an emotional game kind of a thing. So this is also one of the reasons where people don't really consider it all. I've just given some 6, 7. There are, if you ask me some 30, 40, I can give it. But these are the primary reasons we say that why I don't consider internal audits. Another important thing is that not only this awareness, second one is that they don't find a value for internal audits. It's because I'll give you an example here. I asked a construction worker to come to my place and do some sort of a construction. I have to tell him, like an interior or whatever this thing is, I have to give him a proper diagram and I should ask him to do according to my requirements. If I don't do this and I ask him construct house with 2 floors with so and so facilities, he will construct however he wants. You don't define what is the quality required. You don't tell that what is the space is required. All these things you are not going to define. Similarly, for internal audit also the same thing is going to happen. If you wanted to derive a value from a particular internal audit as a consultant, you have to clearly tell what you are expecting from. You have to define the scope. Are you doing that because I have awareness issue and I think it is only compliance? I say that you do something and give us a report. So that's where you are not really feeling this internal audit is going to be a really value-added function. Even you have in-house employees or you have a external consultant, you don't really feel value-added. This is not only with SME companies, even larger organizations also, more than 3,000, 5,000 crore companies also, they have their own larger internal audit function. Still, when it is coming at the end to the audit committee meetings, they pass a comment says that boss, I don't really find anything this report worth. But before commenting on that or before getting into that aspect, the entire channel of starting from a support to the concerned process owners or a promoters or whoever the person till concluding the particular issues have been properly supported. Without all these things, you cannot have a proper output, right? So if you wanted to feel that as a value added, this implant is going to give something value to the organization, there should be a both sides support. You have to best utilize the consultant, and consultant has to get a better support from the promoters or the senior management. So if you are not transparent and everything is going to be like a hanky-panky piece. So these are a few things why they don't consider internal audits. Now this will tell us that also a kind of an actual scenario what we are having in organizations. Are you able to see the numbers? What I mean? Little difficult, right? Yeah. So instead of internal auditors and ResearchGate, they've done more than 500 companies of Asian companies of SMEs. SMEs in the sense accordingly a global requirement also up to 400 500 crores turnover has been considered. Unfortunately, if you see the titles which I have given, awareness of concept of internal audits. Likewise, understanding the benefits of internal audits. Then perception of the need for internal audits, whether I need really these internal audits or not. And awareness of different types of audits. Because internal audit, as I said, it is not only operational audit, I have a financial audit, I have a compliance audit, IT audit, so many things are there. Whether they are really aware of it. Then awareness of the legal requirements for audits. In all these things, if you see the percentages, the red ones which shows the lag. So the first one which gives like 38% where they don't have awareness of the concept of internal audit itself. They only know audit means stat audits. Similarly, understanding the benefits of internal audits. Somebody who is not even understand what is internal audit, obviously what is the benefits you are going to understand. At least it is contributing 42%. So these numbers are little alarming. This is ultimately tells that leave out the promoters who are sitting as a technical guy, the other senior people who are also maybe having a finance background or non-finance background, they are not really understanding the concepts of internal audit and usage, how to put them into the picture and get the value from this particular consulting activity is not been happening. And if you see perception for the need for internal audits, the question was that whether you need internal audit for whatever the reason. They say that we don't need it. 45% we are having this. Almost 50% of people they say that I don't want because I don't see any value in internal audits. As I said in the previous example, right, when I don't define proper scope or proper objectives for doing a particular consulting activity, how is that I am going to expect a value? Then awareness of different types of audits. As I said, internal audit itself people don't aware of it. And obviously other types of audits, nobody knows. If somebody, government comes and says that was more than 50 crores, there should be an IT audit. Then obviously everybody awares of it, yeah, there is no more IT audit, I have to do it. Otherwise, we are not going to do that. That is again, these are all something in awareness issues. And even some of the people don't even know that what is the compliance requirements. Because if I cross certain turnover or certain conditions or criteria which have been discussed earlier, whether that criteria do you know for internal audit, at least for compliance purposes, a lot of requests we get after completing the financial year was, I think for the last year we have crossed the 200 crore turnover. Now we wanted internal auditor to be appointed. When after completing the financial year, I'm appointing internal auditors. What for? Giving a certificate. The whole purpose is that I have to walk with them and I'm walking after they've already reached their destination, now I started walking. So what is the use of it? So this is purely awareness gap. Yeah, this is ultimate essence of what we are talking today. These are the background slides so far, 6-7 slides we discussed about. We landed into that why internal audits are required for SMEs. Because internal audits are required for every organization, but specifically why SMEs. When I am putting these points here, I am also keeping in mind not only just MSME definition, I am just taking till 300, 400 crore turnover companies also, because they are also in a way medium-sized organizations, which is in India especially, we don't have a robust process or streamlined activities. So the first and foremost is that why they need to have a internal audit. One of the reasons, because this is something few I just picked and choose and picked here and put it, but there are so many things. If you talk to the promoters, if you talk to the members fraternity, there's so many reasons they say that. Few of them I just kept it here. One is an accountability. So just imagine where you have some organization when you are going for a stat audit. There is one organization which is regularly going through the internal audits. What is the level of a financial maturity or a financial transaction maturity or discrepancies you are going to find at the end of the statutory audit? I mean, maybe at the end of the year. Since already somebody will run through the various transactions and whatever the pitfalls are there that has been identified, that has been sorted out, and you are going to have at the end result. So it's not reducing the work of an stat auditors, but you are going to give a comfort. So one, if you do these regular audits, what you are going to happen is something internal audit or internal control process or any business process is not going to set up in one day. I have seen many organizations have a beautiful policies, beautiful SOPs, nothing is being followed. Beautiful DOPs are there, they won't follow it. Because promoter says, do this, they do it, everything is being overridden. So, this is not going to be changed in one day. It's not like a bureaucracy where MNC companies, the policy comes from US and you have to implement at any cost. If not, you are not going to be in this place. Unlike these companies, SMEs, these return goods will not work. So, in that sense, if internal audits are being happening, it is being part and parcel of your regular operation, somebody is keep on monitoring it, obviously the people who are being respective functions is going to be falling in place, formally or informally. By writing a policy, you are not going to put them in a place, but keep on reviewing it, keep on monitoring, keep on telling them that what is good, what is not bad. In a way, after some point of a time, you get some maturity that you are going to fall in place. That's how slowly you have to achieve that result. So that's the first thing which I feel that why SMEs have to implement this into audits. It's not only just to derive the benefits, this is also bring that culture of a discipline or streamlining the things, and you are trying to see slowly in a steady progress that what can be done for the organization. Second one is that external audit readiness. There are requests from some of the clients that, sir, before we are going for a stat audit, they come in somewhere in June of the next year. I wanted you to review my all transactions and tell us that what is good, what is bad, what are the gaps or something is there. Then we will rectify everything before they are coming. Similarly, sometimes due diligence happens. Some venture capitalists are going to invest, or they are going for IPO or whatever the case is there. They are going to take a support from the internal audit. Says that what and all is good before I am going to open up to some external party. So if it is first one is going to be where your external auditor before they are coming you want to be perfect, that is also another good thing where not only with intention to the compliance, you are also going to streamline your own transactions process within before somebody, the external person is commenting on it. If it is a serious lapse at the end, you are not going to reinvent the things. You are not going to recreate anything, you have been lost. If benefit has been lost, some non-compliance has been done, which is also having FT penalty, somebody has to report to regulators. All this is going to happen when stat auditors are finding at the end of the year. But the SMEs can also ask to take support of an internal auditors to get them ready and get it reviewed, second of an health checkup before you are going for the external audit. That is also one of the reasons which I feel that this basically these 2 points will tell the kind of a culture change within the organization. You cannot change everything in one day. It has to be slowly put in place, and you have to little orient them, tell them what is good, what is not good, and all this slowly you have to take them along with you. Operational efficiency, as in the previous slide, external audit and internal audit. So external audit, are they concerned about your procurement process? They may be concerned about for IFC controls, they are going to give their audit report or they are going to give from CARO point of view. But they are not really concerned about your operational efficiencies. Because starting budgeting of my production, procurement, bringing it to my place, utilizing in the production, then manufacturing the product and selling it to the customer. This entire activities is an operational activity which is nothing to do with the numbers. Numbers are there, but that is going on sitting in your ERP, that's been fine. This entire operational process, who has to look into it? So that's where you can take help of the internal audits. You have to place the internal audits for what reason is this the main reason. Because I said, without setting up a proper process, if it is being person driven, one person decides what has to be done in whichever may be the function of the organization, and it goes on, whatever the mistakes, whatever the drawbacks, every time whenever you do the audit, whenever you do the review, these issues are going to come up. But in a way, if you set up a process, if you automate it, automate in the sense, it's a manual process you are putting in place and you are asking everyone to follow that. Any deviations from the process, you highlight to the concerned person or it go for an exceptional approvals. So that process level efficiency has to be put in place. Again, as I said, this is something where it is, internal audit is not just coming into the organization like a consultant and doing everything on its own. There is a proper collaboration has to happen with the senior management of organizations. And promoters also have to take into the right intention and they have to collaborate with the consultant or internal auditors, you can say, and they have to see the improvement in this process. They have to set up the process and improve upon. I think in all these reasons, this is one of the, I think 50% of my, the need for internal audit comes from this. Because this will lay a foundation for all the other process. Tomorrow you are going to have a proper financial reporting. Let's have a process, properly financial book closure process. Let's have proper finance and accounts policies put in place, SMEs put in place. If that process has not been set up, whatever you are talking tomorrow, everything is going for a toss. Resource optimization. So this is also not concern for the regulators or not concern for the external person. This is a concern for the within the organization. So when you are seeing that, we see some SMEs, they have a poor management of an inventory. Why? Because there might be external constraints where your customer demands are there, lack of supply chain or availability of material, all those things are there. But still, having all this proper in place, still you have excess inventory in your place. How it is been possible? Since you don't have a proper structured process of assessing your requirement on a periodic basis, per se, if I know what is the production for next 1 month, 2 months, am I really procuring enough material to produce that many quantity? Why I am procuring more than that? Because most of the people don't understand that I purchased the inventory and just kept in my place for 6 months. And ultimately you are already having a cost constraints and you are having again once again a working capital issues now. So this optimization of your resources, even HR, human resources, how many companies really doing, or even bigger companies also, that are they having appropriate resources? In the sense, in terms of the value, in terms of the quantitative or qualitative also. I have seen some organizations, invariably based on whatever the production requirements they have, they take the contract labor of same number. This scenario where I have 100 contract labor and I do 100 quantity, I do 200 quantity, I do 50 quantity. See, the contract labor or external person, the only meaning is what, whenever I wanted I can take them. They are not my regular employees, and obviously I am going to have the cost management. But that really is been happening. That optimization is not been happening. But that can only happen when you are putting the process in place. You are going to have a production department. They align me for next 1 month, what are all my production requirements and what is my human resource requirement for this. And accordingly you are going to give a index to your HR department. Similarly, I have seen some organizations, finance department only 1 person will be there. Or sometimes finance department will have 10 persons, 10 people. Why you have lower side, why you have a 10 people, nobody knows. Promoter side you have taken. Senior person said you have to recruit, you have taken. So this 10 people, everybody does the same activity. This guy account the invoice, another guy 2 days also, 3 days also account the invoice. Why? Some funny reasons they say that. So this guy if he is on leave, nobody is going to be there to account it, so that's why we have one more person as a backup. This kind of a backup you have for your products, rather for the admin functions. So these are looks silly and funny, but the optimization is something which is very much important. Like your machine utilization. This is a technical matter which chart accountant may not be able to do it, but anybody is really concerned about that. So that's where some promoter side or senior management side, they have to take a step forward and they have to try to take a benefit of all these things. So internal audit is being poised to do these benefits to the organization. Since awareness gap is there, people are not understanding properly, they can't really utilize the resources for this kind of a value-added functions or activities. We need compliance. You tell us that GST has been properly paid, input rate properly has been taken, tax duties have been properly paid, then my money which have been sold, whatever receivables are there, properly managing. These are all the concerns are there, definitely that's important. But the other way around, there are so many things which you have to set right within your organization. Before you are cleaning your house, you are going and seeing that your clients you have to develop and all those things. Will that be possible? It is not going to be. Second one is going to be scalability and confidence. I said initially that I am just going by default, in the flow I am doing it. So since I don't have a process in place, because today I have 100 quantity, some CA person who is having experience says that you purchase this many number of materials to maybe with 10% of excess for emergencies, this many materials are going to be sufficient to me. This is his experiences. One day he left the organization. What is going to happen? So that's where process has to come to the picture. If this process is there, today you do 100, tomorrow you do 1000, this process itself will take care of that. So the scalability is going to be a problem. Most of the people don't visualize that. We'll go with our past experience. So I think there are some organizations who are really doing good. They have a big aspirations. They wanted to go for a external funding, or they want to go for an IPO. It's very good. And when they reach that position, that's where they understand, boss, we are good at numbers, but if somebody just jump into my organization, ask for some document, I am unable to produce it. So how that external party, even for IPO purpose, for a due diligence or a VC, how that they are going to get a confidence? You are unable to produce it. You are showing the numbers and everything is being fine. But when I am investing in your business, I am not only seeing your product potential, I am also seeing whether you are able to sustain this growth. You have enough capabilities. You have set up those processes in place to take care of all these things. When you ask these questions from an investor point of view, then blank. Then that's where you see that any companies of 200, 300 crores turnover, suddenly they are going for IPO or for a due diligence, they appointed big consulting companies like Big Four, EY, KPMG, all these things. They appoint and they, within a month, I'll ask them to set right everything. Will that be possible? It is like creating a beautiful documentation, and also obviously the investors or whoever is coming into the board, okay, there is a big consulting company has done this and everything is being fine. They are not be blind, but I am just saying that the kind of a false promise is going to be given. So why the SMEs has to do this? When they understand the benefits, when they are aware of what we have to do it first before others, somebody has to be ready with that. Because my product is doing good, let's be sustainable. Let's build the ecosystem. Tomorrow if I am scaling up, I can live with it. Because tomorrow you have big customer came and is given a big order, and you have to show the capabilities to them, boss, I am going to be there. I am not going to just wipe out when such pandemics or anything is happening. I have such a strong base. So when that is not being given, obviously you are going to lose the customers. So that is something where if you wanted to grow, if you wanted to scale, there is only one way, is that set up your foundation properly. Because whether promoters also, sometimes you see these promoters, family-owned companies, obviously some senior person leading it. The new generation who was coming in, they are not really interested, or they are not really understanding the product, what you are doing, business, what you are doing it. The moment that old person is retired or gone out of the business, then it is going to go down. Why? Because it is been depending on the people. This brain is been happening. Similarly, the guy who left the finance function, who left the procurement function, marketing function, everything is depending on respective person. That person leaves the organization, that entire business goes off. Why that has to happen? So that's why we say that people-driven transaction, people-driven process, you have to avoid it. Process-driven activities, you have to do it. So that is only give you a sustainability in a longer run. Second one is going to be of customer trust. As I said, if I wanted to, because today any larger organizations, if they wanted to give a good business to you, they are doing a vendor audits. You might be seeing that they visit the small scale industries, they do proper due diligence. Finally, if they get a contest, then only they give the order. Because if they are depending on you for a 50% of the requirement of a particular part, and if that guy is not, in the books is good, but in the real in the flow, if he is not really good, I am not going to depend. Why is that? I am going to be part of this supply chain issues. So, if the moment when they are in your place, they will not access all your process or records, but when they are doing their high level due diligence, if you don't have proper processes, all this is put in place, and you are just doing a production and selling it, then obviously you will not get a confidence. So to give a customer also trust, because if you see some of the call centers which is being set up in Bangalore, there are global companies comes and do the audits, because they are ultimate customers, third party audits, they do it. The only intention is they want to see the quality of it. If you see some call centers, like some BPOs, you will have highly qualified people, qualified chartered accountants, technical people and all those. If you see the kind of activities they are doing it, Nothing, even a graduate can do it. Why they are having those resources? They wanted to tell that, boss, our organization is capable, this many quality resources are there, we are going to be, scale whatever requirement is there. That's how they wanted to portray it. Similarly, when I am a manufacturing SME and I should portray that not by showing my beautiful factory, but ultimately the process, ultimately which leads to a better product that I have to convince my customer. Then only you can win the trust of the customer. Previously I said that there are some certifications you are going to get it. The certifications is an attestation, but somebody is seeing with your eyes, somebody is coming to your premises, somebody is doing a due diligence, they will understand in and out of it. So legal troubles, this is one of the important things, and obviously all SMEs are concerned about this. Mainly this is one of the reasons where they will appoint the internal auditors or a consultant for the matter. Compliance checks. So predominantly, as per my understanding, more than 50% of the clients will ask that please do this check. That is the first scope item. Sir, whatever my GST, tax, other labor compliance, everything is being fine, please tell us that. This is the first scope item. Nothing wrong in it, that's a good thing also, but you should not confine to only that. But unfortunately that is being confined. Again, there are also a lot of gaps. Most of the organization doesn't know many labor compliances. Smaller compliance or bigger compliance, that is different thing. They don't even know, sir, it's like we did not even see this. Management wrote something, we are going like this only. The smallest of the smallest thing I tell you, there is a labor welfare fund will be there, which is you have to contribute 20 rupees per month for a particular employee. I mean, it's not a big deal, but this is nobody aware of it. Minimum wages, nobody aware of. Likewise, there are so many things started, but one good thing is that they are employing a consultant or internal auditor for checking the compliance activity, that is essential. That is one of the important activity also. Because whatever the business you are doing, it is within your hands. Compliance is something which you are doing within your organization, which you have to report to the external parties. So if you are not properly discharging the GST, if you are not properly paying advance tax, or if you are not complying with the minimum wages, and you are not paying the bonus, or whatever, maternity benefits, or whatever you are not giving it, these are all comes at one shot. I think maybe next year we are going to have a labor coach, which is going to be some more stringent. What we are having today, these are so many acts which is talking various definitions of various activities within those labor requirements. The code which is going to have 4 codes have been given, the 4 codes are going to be very simpler but very serious. So you cannot have just like that because whatever I am going to do it as a promoter. So you have to fall into that. Then contractual obligations, this is also one of the important things where SMEs has to invest a time. In sense, I have seen a lot of organizations, even I said like more than 300 crore turnover companies, not even having enough agreements with their customers or vendors. So, point is that they are going by the reliability. The reliance on the customer, somebody sitting, a senior person there is giving a reliance, and this side senior person is agreeing to it, and it goes on like this. How long you can do this? And some cases I see where contracts properly being written. Again, there is one challenge here. SMEs are not in a position to negotiate. It is that big customers are going to decide the terms and conditions. Either you accept or go out. If somebody is really taking that risk, unfortunately, if promoter is aware of it, it's been fine, but if it is not, senior person has been taken that call, that is not been aware to the senior management, that is the promoters, then anything goes wrong, that's going to be a problem. So, the contractual obligations, let it be of a money or operational or quality or anything for the matter, including a warranty of the product which you are serving it, this contractual obligation is something very important. Both the side of the parties have to understand. Since you are dealing with a bigger customers, they are very much aware. They are properly legally vetted and you are giving it to you, and you are just signing it without even reading it. How is that we are going to put no terms and conditions, agreed, and install the app? Similarly, we are doing it. So that's where you have to, you can employ the internal auditor or consultant. Boss, review whether I have a proper safeguards of my contractual obligations. Either I am selling it or I am buying it, whether I have safeguards. At least ensure that whether the safeguards are there or not. Second, whatever the various terms and conditions which I put in place, whether I am complying with. Because I have seen some companies where they don't even know that a kind of a transporter they have engaged, and he has to give this many number of vehicles. All those things has been fine. It has been written in the contract that Any repairs and maintenance happens, any breakdown happens, you have to give the backup. Okay, all repairs and maintenance you should only do it if something has been happening. I am only paying the fixed rentals. This is what the contract, a simple thing. Unfortunately, for last 10 years, we do the repairs and maintenance. The client is doing the repairs and maintenance. We are not even asking for a backup vehicles. Why? Because the people who have entered the agreement long back, left the organization long back. There is no further review has been happening, somebody is monitoring it. Then they are surprised. How come this has been happening? Then already gone. For last 10 years already bearing this loss. So simple thing is this. So that's where your contractual obligations from your side, both the parties side, even if you are taking a risk, aware of that risk and take a risk. Don't blindly take a risk. That's what knowingly taking a decision. So you can employ the internal auditors, one of the scope item can be given. What all these items have been given here, right? You can, if it is a learned promoter or a senior person who knows how I have to get a benefit from the internal audit, they can define the scope like this. You can tell them, boss, don't do what you know it. You do it what I need it. This is what I tell you to do it. This is what you give it to me. I'm fine with it. So that's where the crystal clear objectives have been set up. Especially in a value-added functions. Like you wanted to set up a business in a particular place. Will you ask them, you find wherever the place you wanted to give me the business, you set that particular place and source of business. I'm saying, give me the in and out of risk and benefits of all this particular business I'm going to set up. That's how you're going to set up an objective very clearly. But obviously for a stat audit, you cannot set up any objectives. It is the prerogative of a regulatory requirement. But where you have an internal audit and a consulting, where you can set up the objectives clearly. If these objectives don't go beyond that and you give me output on this, that's you can do only when you are really understanding what internal audit can do it. Again, internal audit I am saying it's a consulting. Last one is going to be another important thing because everybody is interested, every promoter is interested in this is saving money. What are the cost savings I can do it? See, the cost savings is not a theoretical thing. When you are in the business, when you are having experience, you know where you have to run the cost savings. It's not just by you are seeing today some of the startups when they are not really doing good, they are laying off. That is not a cost saving. That's not. It's just simply we are seeing that is a cost cutting and a cost saving. That's not actually. So when you are employing an internal auditor, when they are thorough with all this process, when they understood your practices, they have industry experience, they can come and suggest certain cost saving things. Not that the management is not aware of it. They are going to be vetted, attested by the experienced professionals like chartered accountants, cost accountants or engineers or other persons. Maybe few of them you can think of that is a simple example of your labor. Labor, you are obviously having contract labor, you are going to take it and you are managing the cost. But there is a way also you can think of a cost saving. A lot of government schemes give the trainees, ITI trained trainees, which already defined 10,000, 15,000 minimum wages is there, which has to be paid, and 1 year or 2 years there is a period you can extend further and you can take those people. One is something you are creating the employment. Second, you are going to get a trained labor at a lower cost. But unfortunately what happens, this majority of the people not even aware of it, they don't even explore that. I have a contract labor, there is a contractor will give 100 people I wanted, let's put it. So one of the cost saving things which you can just simply think of it. Then if you are really having a proper cash flow, instead of going and buying in bits and pieces, I could see some of the organizations always hand to mouth. They have some cash balance, they have proper cash flows, but they always purchase what is required for next 2 days, next 10 days. The moment you do this, you are not going to have a negotiation power. When you don't have a negotiation power, obviously you are going to get a higher rate. So if somebody has to analyze the cash flow position and they have to see the production requirement and customer orders, and accordingly they have to see what quantity they have to procure it. If you are buying at a larger volume, so obviously that is in a business sense is that you are going to get a better rate. That is also one of the cost saving which you are going to have it. There is another important thing is this SMEs cannot employ like MNC companies so many employees, the people. Whatever those non-value added functions, you can outsource it. If you are talking about HR, if your recruitment is going to be a major thing, for payroll processing all those things you can outsource it. Your compliance verifications or HR related compliances, you can outsource it. Obviously, this is going to reduce a lot of burden, and you are going to get a proper compliance is going to be done. And obviously, you have to see the cost benefit analysis. If I am having employees or if I am having an external agency outsourcing, whether it is going to benefit me or not. So that's how you have to see all the cost saving things. And also one more is that the early payment discounts you are going to get, like the cash discounts, right? So if you are having a proper cash flow, then you have to reach to your vendors and say that, boss, I'll pay, will you give me a discount, a cash discount? Because majority of the organizations are having this practice of it. So this is something proactively somebody has to go. This is not something the management doesn't know about it. Maybe external consultant and internal auditors can also help finding those cost saving when they are totally walking around the business. Improve revenue, obviously revenue leakages. This is something, you agreed something in your sales orders, or you agreed something in your contract, like a price escalations will be there. After a certain point of a time, after a certain value, you are going to have a price escalations. But are you implementing this? Are somebody timely monitoring this and implementing and getting a revenue increase there? Because if you have a proper ERPs, everything you can set up automate. That is the game of an MNC companies or a bigger, larger companies. But SMEs is not like that. They are going to depend on a manual process, manual documentation, Excel sheet, even a paper sometimes. So, when you are employing an external person, giving a proper scope of that, review my entire sales and marketing function or receivable function, tell us that are there any revenue leakages. So obviously you go through the entire process, you do the walkthrough, and you have all this, each activity review, transactions you review, then finally you can give an assurance whether there is a revenue leakage or not. Sometimes the resultant is going to be revenue potential, revenue optimization also can be done. Because you are not seen in this category, you can think of charging the customer this one also. So that is also one of the things, because I think for the promoters, first 5 is not going to excite them. The last one is going to most excited for part of them, because the immediate benefit, what you are going to get it. If you tell them that, boss, you are not taking input credit and you lost, then they are take it very seriously. But no, you set up this process. Maybe next 1 year, when you are really going in that value, you are going to really get a benefit and sustainability in the market, they will not listen to it. So when you are internal auditors, also don't be so rigid that, boss, this is the process you have to follow. You have to first convince, you have to give some benefits, you have to make them understand that along with this, this is also is available. Then people listen to it. Anyway, in subsequent slides, I will talk about. So since we understand why, how the need of internal audit, where and all internal auditor can be helping the organizations, where the promoters can take a help of our internal auditors. Because these are all something which the members has to have it, and also the promoters or the people who are in the organization, senior management has to be aware of it. Then only I can buy the product, I can buy the valuable services. Otherwise, I will keep thinking of regulatory activity or the compliance activity. So now coming into that, since we know the benefits and where we can deploy as internal auditor, another question comes is that what role internal audit has to play? Because MNC companies is something is different, and SMEs have a lot of challenges. In my experience, doing SME company internal audit is very challenging than the MNC companies. It's because you have to explain everything. First and foremost, you have to explain the difference between internal audit and external audit. You have to tell about, if you ask some documentation, you have to tell them that why you ask this documentation. What is that you wanted to see this? So many challenges. For me, sometimes doing an MNC company, a larger company is very easy, very settled process, and proper SOPs have been defined, proper internal controls have been put in place. I will give the compliance report when it comes out, and maybe some validation wherever it is possible, because their process has been matured. But here, everyone is sometimes look uneducated, sometimes not aware of it. These challenges pose when our internal auditor is going there as a consultant. You will not be able to, they don't even bother about you, and they will not be transparent. These are all big problems. So that's where, if you see this diagram, where there is a table, there is a 3 lines of a defense. Now it's a 3 lines model, we call it as an Institute of Internal Auditors have been given this. So the organization will have a governing bodies, that is a promoters or a senior management who is not part of the day-to-day activities. The left hand side, the down where the left hand side you have that management. the first line of defense. That means those people who are part of the production, sales, daily they are meeting your customers, vendors and all those things. Second line of a defense. That means there are the people who are the protectors. They are in collaboration with first line people and they are seeing what is good for the organization, not good for the organization, and they are going to protect and they are reporting to the senior management. That is the second line of a defense. The third line of a defense is what? Is an internal audit. If these guys, it's like something I have set up, if you are crossing here, then I am going to have one more. Then if you are crossing here, I am going to have an internal audit. But unfortunately, in SMEs, internal audit is the guy who is going to play the role of a second line of a defense. You will not have generally will you have some type of GST department there? You will not have. You will not have a tax department. You will not have a quality assurance division. You will not have IT department. When all these things you don't have, second line itself is not existing in the organization. If it is that case, when you've been appointed as an internal auditor, then you are going to take this position. So you have to wear wisely which hat, because as assurance provider or as a consultant. If you are going to be a third line of a defense, obviously sometimes they disregard you and I said no, I am not finding any value, go to this place. So you have to find a right balance, that where I have to get into the shoes of a second line, where into the third line. So this is again what are the changing expectations, in the sense internal audit, what has been happening. Okay, if you have been with the right intention has been put in place. If you have an audit committee or a board who is really being concerned about internal audit, earlier was the cases, as I said, before I am going for a stat audit or before really everything is being lost, don't give us surprises, tell us if something has been happening on the floor, and cost effectiveness. But if you see the other way around, today's expectations from the audit committee, once from the internal audit by the audit committee, is that risk focus, risk intelligence, is that since these guys are external people having a lot of industry experience, and knowing my business, knowing my strategic objectives, knowing my business processes, you tell us that what are the risks in my organization. Whether all these risks have been properly mitigated, whether I put a proper control measures for this. If not, am I taking an acceptable risk or unacceptable risk? This is something which they are expecting, because if you see some of the small companies which are listed organizations, they are in audit committees, they specifically ask, boss, you tell us that all the risks have been properly covered, because you have sometimes like in risk management companies, they define it's like a policy that is there in the website, that's all, but nobody is going to really get into it. That's where the audit committee or a board is going to take a help from the internal auditors, and you give us a confidence, you protect our value. And reporting also, unlike a stat audit, once in a end of the year reporting is happening, here you are going to have a regular interaction with your the client, auditing, the management, promoters. So they wanted as and when something happens, don't wait till end of the year to report this. You tell us, then and there we will rectify, or any action has to be taken, we can take that. So that's how the communication they are expecting. Then obviously one of the important thing is that again, where people are diluting that, you take the internal and do whatever the scope you wanted and give us a report. Instead of that, focusing on what is important. If I am in the client base, if I am a promoter, I clearly tell that boss, I have these are 3 pain points for me. You review this and give me a comfort. What is good, what is not good, a very black and white output. I'll ask that because I know what I can ask. But majority of the promoters, they don't, or senior management, they don't understand that. They accept what you give as a compliance. And obviously senior management, they have their own things. Everything has to happen with a cost effective and get me some revenue enhancement opportunities, and all those things happens, that is everything is going to be there. But today they are expecting, as an internal auditor, as a consultant, this is I am saying not very small organizations of more than at least 300-400 crores turnover companies, they say that don't give me some theoretical issues and theoretical recommendations which is not working for me. You give actionable recommendations. Maybe cost benefit analysis or something we can sit together and do it, but actionable recommendations to give it so that I can act upon. Otherwise, why I am employing you is waste of time. So I have to properly measurable recommendations I have to give it. So that's where I have to bring my industry experience, and I should understand the environment of that small organization and align my recommendations to them so that they can implement it. Because you give a recommendation, they don't implement, what is the use of it? And another important thing is that they expect that today you have to walk through them. because you don't come once in a while, give some report and goes off. You be with my people, you understand their orientation, collaborate with them and come with a valuable output. Don't just restrict that for giving a beautiful report and going off this place. But this is something on the paper it is good, on the floor the promoters or the senior management are really taking that way. They are not so very transparent. If they are not transparent or they are not accessible, obviously this is not going to happen. So as I said, internal audit or a consulting activity is a collaboration of a client as well as a consultant, auditee or a auditor. If that is not happening, then it's going to be a problem. Yeah. So now when we are going for internal audit of small entities, as I said, doing small entity internal audit I had really a challenging one. Bigger organization, I was very happy to do it, and better compensating also, because if you see the compensation what you get from SMEs, since they don't really feel so much of a value, they really don't pay that much. Even if you say that boss, I am going to bring this much, or else I am going to give us cost saving like this, you pay me this much, they are not going to be convinced. But if it is a stat audit or some sort of a compliance activity, they have to pay. There is no option for that. So when you are doing internal audit of a small organization, what are the challenges you are going to have it? The first thing is that internal controls will not be there. Everything happens on the directions of the management. I say something to do it, even a WhatsApp also message is going to be there, you have to act upon it. When that kind of a situation is there, when internal controls have not been established, then you are just in the big jungle, standing there and where to go, what to audit. Because documentation is not available, internal control is not being set up. Then there is no audit trail of transactions. There is no proper ERP to trace the transactions. How is that you are going to do it? That's the biggest challenge. So that's where internal audit is in a way, this is a challenge. This can be an opportunity also to suggest to the client that what internal controls has to be set up. What is the problem because of this internal controls are not there? Lack of expertise. Obviously, as I said, somebody who is finalizing the books of accounts might be a become graduate. So if you go and talk about India's or accounting standards a big thing, you will not be able to understand. So then when I am going and talking my jargon of internal language, process improvement, enhancement, all these things, definitely he will be saying that, sir, this is not my cup of tea, go and talk to promoter. So that is another challenge. Because unlike MNC companies, what happens, everybody is already being learned professionals are there. What I am talking, you will understand. And other way around, what he is talking, I can understand. But here it is just an imbalance. I will be talking something which is totally out of his language. And resistance to auditing, obviously as I said in the previous slides, these people always think that they are going to come and focus, pinpoint negative things, and obviously that resistance is going to be there. Data inconsistencies. You would have seen in stat audit to solve these SMEs also. Data will be scattered. Everything they will compile at the end of the year and PPT. Internal audit, just imagine. They don't even, if you ask something, a document will say, we know whatever you want it. You report it. That's how they talk about it. That they cannot tell you the stat audit because you will qualify it. So then, cost sensitivity we discussed, this is one of the hurdles for them, they don't want to invest too much on this. And complex regulatory environment. See, there is no differentiation between the bigger company and smaller company today for a compliance purpose. Let it be GST, let it be tax, let it be other compliances. Everything what applies to the bigger organization, smaller organization also it is applicable. Now, whether this organization is going to bear that burden is a bigger challenge. They don't, as I said, they don't understand certain, there is a law also for that. Minimum wages, sir, maybe something is there, we are paying for ages this much. My promoter knows. This is how there is a lack of the knowledge, whatever that complex regulatory environment is creating, but they are unable to bear it. These are all opportunities. What I am saying this as a challenge is, this is something a promoter has to give an objective to the internal auditors and they have to work on this instead of talking something which is so theoretical. Sir, consider barriers obviously. When you are grown up in some environment, suddenly you say that no, don't take this route and take some other route, you are not so comfortable, then obviously people take it in a negative manner. So some of the, we have seen the challenges, some of the insights, how is that we are going to really deal with this? Because when you are dealing with SMEs, as I said, challenges which will give how you have to orient yourself to the approach. It's a flexible approach, you should not be rigid here. I am an internal auditor. You should not stove off starting from a security gate to the promoter, this boss, I am going to the auditor, you give us this documentation, I am going to write all these gaps. It is not going to work. As I said in the previous slide, in the 3 lines of a defense, you have to wear the second line of a defense sometimes and third line of a defense. You cannot be the first line, obviously you cannot deliver anything. If you don't have a flexible approach, you are not going to get anything, and obviously at the end the promoter will feel that this is of no use. So have a flexible approach. Then value added auditing. As I said, first you have to show some benefits to the any person for the matter, that this is something you have to do a risk assessment also in that way. You have to focus on those areas that where I can bring the value addition. Along with it, you are coming with some sort of an improvement opportunities, process sustainability. All this is you are going to tell next. Don't tell these things first and come at the end that there is an 100 rupees saving for you. Nobody is going to accept. So having always SMEs when you are doing it, don't think too much of a process streamlining at the start. Think about something in a value added. You are bringing some cost savings, revenue leakages, you are arresting it, you are protecting them from various safeguards, regulatory compliance have been properly done. Wherever you have to take a benefit or incentives from the various schemes or something, is that first focus on those things. Then get into the other process streamlining and everything, which is a second priority for the organization. And continuous improvement, obviously, you have to keep on doing it, because sometimes what happens, you've been asked for internal at the end of the year, but you have to convince the client that let me come regularly, let me look into the things, and so that I can gel along with you and I can bring some valuation to it. Then business goals. You see sometimes organizations where related party transactions will be there, where sometimes you go with one particular guy only for procurement. Why? Is because promoter said. There you go and say that, sir, you did not take 3 quotations and it is going to be a problem, you are deviating from the process, then obviously promoter will leave. So you have to be very careful, understanding that what is the business goals and what is that their expectations from this. So you have to see what is touch me not and where you have to dwell in. So that orientation you have to get it when you are dealing with SMEs, promoter driven companies. And cross-functional insight, obviously here what happens, one person does 3-4 activities. GST does, tax it does, finance reporting does, everything it does. Then you should not go and say that, sir, there is a segregation of duty issues here. Then, sir, I don't have resources, you are expecting me to bring one more guy and do all these things. This itself is more than enough for me, one person itself I am thinking too much. So that's where you have to come and say that how you are going to deal this kind of issues. Even though this kind of inevitable situation is there, how you are going to safeguard, how you are going to safeguard the business, what are the controls you are going to put in place to safeguard this. So that thought process you should come. Instead of reporting straight away that, sir, this guy is doing GST, this guy is doing procurement, this guy is doing even price master adjustments also is doing it, sir, so this is going to be a problem. That thought process we should not get it. Then cost effectiveness over rigor. As I said, anything you are talking about, sir, this is a fantastic process which has been implemented by MNC companies and SAP, you can implement this. Nobody is going to listen. You tell them, sir, with the same level of an SAP kind of a thing, you are going to do something in this model which is very cost effective or very less cost, then obviously they will follow. So this is something, the orientation you have to change from when you are going from a larger internal audits to the larger organizations to the smaller organizations. There are so many, but this essentially will tell that how you have to orient yourself. So having said that, challenges, insights and what is their expectations, let us see the employed approach. Because today you go and review the transactions and given a report, nobody is accepting it. If internal audit committee is there, or you are going to have stakeholders, or they are expecting some sort of process enhancements, if their objectives are that clear, you are not going to do the old traditional approach of sampling. So you have to get into a proper risk-based approach. That is the model today. You are not only talking about today's risk, you are also talking about the tomorrow's risk. How you convince the organization, there is a different story, but you are going to be risk focused. So the approach is very simple. These are 6 steps. I have a detailed things, but I will just brief it here. That whenever you've been asked to internal audit, don't get straight away and doing the transactions. Ask for a samples, take the ledger review and doing all those things. Let us understand what is the as-is process. This is fundamentally with a common sense that without understanding your process, what is the valuation I can give it? Can I say that your process is correct or not correct? Is appropriate or not appropriate? I cannot do that. So let us understand the process. So that's where again it's a mutual, where promoters also understand the objective and you should also give that kind of a transparency and support to the consultant. Second one is that after understanding the process, the kind of walkthroughs, you have to do a what can go wrong analysis. That means identifying the risk. So you have to collaborate with the management, take various inputs that what are all the risk organization is facing. Let it be a strategic objectives or a compliance risk which you are going to have. everything you are going to make in a laundry list. Then prioritize. As I said, focus on what is important, not something what you know it. So focus on important, prioritize it, do the proper risk assessment, then come within a buckets of ABC. A category which is going to be a serious risk, considering this organization, this management and this process. Then there is a B category, there is a C category. And you have to do the C category. So this what you have to go to the client when they are not understanding what is important. You have to tell them, sir, I am doing this 10 things which are very important for your organization. This 10 is not so important, I can cover in later also. Other 20 you do yourself, which is not required my intervention. So if you are asking me more number of hours, I will charge you more. So that's how you have to convince them. So once you identify what is going wrong, the risk, then you are going to see that whether the what controls have been put in place. As I said, SMEs, controls is a big problem. But you have to see what are the other safeguards you have. Don't think always that there should be some control. Have they safeguarded the other way around? Then if there is a better control within their premises, can I build some control? I can suggest it. Then if controls are there, whether they are working properly or not, you can see it. If there are no controls, you can suggest it. Then another important thing is that talking about whether control is there or not there, all this is one aspect. Doing a root cause analysis, that why control is not there, why this particular risk is existing, or why this particular thing has not been mitigated, what is going to impact. This is something that a root cause analysis has to be done. There is a concept called a fishbone analysis. One particular problem will have multiple root causes. Unless you touch that root cause, you will not be able to solve this problem. Every year it comes. Every audit report you will see this issue. So root cause analysis is something out of your audit, 50% of the time is going to take for this. If you don't do this, your recommendations are not going to be valuable. Recommendation, if you wanted to give a proper, acceptable or actionable recommendations, then your root cause analysis will be perfect. You spend as much of a time you want, discuss as many times as you wanted within a process once, then come within a proper root cause, then arrest that. Then obviously reporting is going to happen, whatever. Again, you should not talk the same language to everyone. What you talk to the junior executive, what you talk to the senior management, there should be some sort of considering their time and their importance. So this is a 3-stage. So what I have explained that I have documented detail also, this is an internal audit approach you have to follow it. For all this is you have to maintain a proper documentation, you have to demonstrate it. It is not something I have just taken and give some reports. Because today if I wanted to give some observations, any SME you touch it, you can write 100 observations without even seeing the transaction, fill in the blanks. These are all numbers you can fill it. These are the gaps I can give it. But that's not the intention behind this. You have to rate yourself. You have to get along with them. Then try to give an evaluation. Then only the next year also they are going to respect you. Otherwise, you are here for some fees and I need some compliance and it is been fine. So this is I wanted to tell to the organizations, the promoters or the senior management that how you have to define the internal audit plan. Don't tell to the consultant or internal auditor that, sir, you do internal audit. Anta helvaru. The moment you do that, then whatever he wants, you will be doing it. You have to sit with them, ask them to do a proper risk assessment, and then as I said, I have given in this diagram, understand and identify the risk. Starting from your financial statements, discussing with external auditors, everything put in place. Understand what are the process involved, what are the locations you have, what are the risk involved in it. Likewise, you have to zero down to the priority items of a bucket, so the ABC. And then that items you tell that, sir, I am going to cover this for 6 months. Next 1 year I am going to cover this. Next, maybe in 2 years period I can cover those low risk items. The moment you say that, one, you are going to gain the confidence of the promoters. Second, I am going to charge only for this activity which I have done. Because you asked me to do all these things, I will do it. But obviously you are going to pay me that much. So the risk-based audit plan has to be prepared. That don't keep it with you. That you talk to the senior management, tell them, take you through and explain them that this is what I am going to do it. Then they are going to give a support. Otherwise, report banta, that's all. That is being taken into the records and given to the stat auditors and goes off. So this is something in a process universe where what are all the possible processes which can be covered in organization. I'm just trying to maintain, but there are lot many things can be given. But at least a prime of AC, what can really matters for them, just I've given a few other things here. Starting from your operations, compliance, financial reporting, or safeguarding on various assets, these are all things which is going to be covered. Corporate governance, you should not have much on this with the SME companies. Because there is a lowest standards on the corporate governance you are going to have there. So, but you have to slowly put them in the place that this is also important for your organization. Slowly, if you are growing or your scalability, if somebody you are approaching for a funding, this is something is going to be important. Then procurement payables, all these things you know it. But today there is another important aspect which all this process everybody knows. But another important thing of talking something in information security or IT risk which the organization has been posed. There is a myth that I am a small organization, who is going to bother about me, who is going to hack me, who is going to do ransom attack on me. These are all common tendencies people are there. But we have few clients who are even less than 100, 120 crores turnover. They have been at the end of the financial year, they are using some customized ERP, they have been done the ransom attack. They cannot even post the entries. Then when is the question of that, they are going to prepare finance statements. Now they were asking for ransom. They paid it. So this is what is going to happen. We cannot be so laxistic approach that way, okay, nobody is going to bother about you. You are in the radar of so many people. If it is really beneficial, they are going to do that. So before that, there should be a proactive approach for you to get in. But again, this is not so important, but this is there. This can be considered whenever you are having your time. So that's how you are going to have all this process in place. I think we are running out of time. So I think when you are setting up a process, keep this in mind that this is something after doing a proper risk assessment, falling into any of this process and risk-based plan has been prepared, that has been taken a consensus from the management, and then you are going for an execution of the internal audit. If you don't do this, if you don't take them along with this, again you will be treated like a compliance step. So you have to create the confidence. As I said, internal auditor is a part of the organization, it's not external person. So that you have to keep reminding them, keep you are telling to the process owners, and you yourself putting your shoes into that. So a recap that we have seen what is SMEs, what are the challenges, why they don't need internal audits, and why internal audit is required as a members or experienced personnels who are working in industry or is going to be the consultants. We have to put all this forward and tell them that there are benefits. This is how you can look into it. Don't think that every audit is same. Every audit is not a stat audit. This is actually internal audit is being called as an audit, but it's not an audit, it's a consulting activity. Likewise, we have to tell them and convince. Then obviously, the ultimate takeaway is that any internal audit or anything consulting activity which you are taking it is not a short-term goal. You are not going to see the benefit today itself. What the seeds have been planted today, you are going to see maybe, because in some organizations I tell you that where we said a smallest segregation of duty conflict, smallest one, there was a fraud subsequently after that. Is it because of that? Maybe possible, right? Somebody is already learned and everything he is only doing, he can misuse that. So people think that, what is a big problem with the segregation of duty conflict? Why you are telling all those things? It's a remote possibility, but can happen. So the benefits of the internal audit is going to be seen slowly, little later. Immediate benefits will be there, which is like a cost savings, revenue mitigation, all this. But over a period of a time, if you want to streamline the processes, you have to have the long-term goals. Don't think that I paid 10 lakhs fees today for the internal audit and I am going to get immediately tomorrow the benefit of a 1 crore. Don't think of that. If that is the intention, then you are not in a right way to approach the internal auditor. If you are doing that, then you are doing more of a business. You are not really taking a consulting to improve your process and scale. So I think that is end of my presentation. So any questions, please? I think well within 2 hours. Any questions? Any? You can happy to take.
So these SMEs are now, government is proposing to list them, I mean to bring them into to get the more capital. So they are asking for the government is proposing that you can list yourself as capital market.
Yeah.
So how do you see that this internal audit, will it be a mandatory for them? Because again, we have an option, other side is that they will always beg before the government that my cost is this.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the people who have invested on them will also see the governance, how they are able to actually run the business or run this new innovative product, how they will, for simple example, a soap which is there, they have an innovative soap, but they want to stand against the HUL, a big competitor. So if somebody is investing on this small company who will later 80 years down the line will become like an HUL. So you think that again this will be a challenge to invoke the internal audit or not to invoke the internal audit?
See, the moment I think if the exposure is there, the stakeholders are there from external stakeholders, the smaller or bigger, exposure is there. So the moment exposure is there, obviously, similar to the statutory, you have to safeguard the stakeholders' interest. So obviously that's where you are going to get into the internal audit also is going to be mandatory. I feel if it is getting into the capital market, they are listing as a smaller organization, so obviously it is a compliance burden. See, if today we have a GST, we have a tax, there is a compliance burden, you have a labor compliance, you have a compliance burden, you cannot do away with it. So similarly, but today unfortunately in Indian environment, internal audit has not been seen like that. They simply take that you take a back seat and come when it is really mandatory and find all excuses to push it back. So that's not going to happen. I feel if it is really mandatory to get into the listing or somebody is having aspirations, so definitely there is an essential requirement for internal audit. Somebody has to take the protector seat of stakeholders. Not that the statutories are not taking, statutories are taking it, but in a numbers way. But here, these guys are investors are being protected in a sustainable way that this business is going to be believed, reliable. You can think of investing. That's how the confidence you are going to be. That's what I think. Yeah. Anything else? See, the topic itself is like that because I was talking so much about a risk control and all this. If I am talking about a tax, if I am talking about a GST or accounting science, obviously we are versed with it and we wanted to more well into it. But that's where I wanted to suggest that educate our clients also, because we are one of the advisory scheme is this. Even the chartered accountants today well equipped, as I said, they are having all the capabilities which is required to serve the organizations other than the technical things. So you have to educate them, you have to convince them, you have to show the benefits, and obviously then they will fall into the line. So that's what my ultimate objective of maybe presenting on this topic also. Without awareness, without educating the client, we are not going to achieve anything in this.
I fully agree with you. Before educating the client, are we educated well enough to demonstrate that what we can help you?
Exactly.
How you can, how it can really help to your business, and it's a mutual benefit each other.
Correct. So I think that's where the problem is, that we are unable to demonstrate that. The moment you are not demonstrating it, see, you've been appointed as an internal auditor and the organization doesn't give a free hand to you. Then obviously what you do is that whatever is available you verify and you give the report. And the moment if there is a real objective, that's why I said, if the objective is clear to utilize the internal auditors, they have to set the objectives properly. If I am a promoter, I will clearly set the objectives. I wanted a product like this. If I am buying the iPhone today, I wanted with the source of configuration only. Similarly, I will define to the consultant that, boss, you look at this and you give me valuation benefit in this. If I am not defining that, obviously, you will not have a chance to put your proposal that, boss, I can bring this much to the table. If somebody is doing that, it's really good. But I think we have to educate ourselves also is that with the various internal audit concepts, because today the age-old traditional concept of internal audit is gone, verifying some samples and giving the reports. Today people are thinking of a data analytics, robotic process automations. So when you are in this kind of era, if you go and say that this voucher way you have not deducted TDS 100 rupees, people scrap you. So that's how the thing is. So we have to educate ourselves. I think that's what I think we have to appreciate Bangalore branch, is that they have taken this topic today, which I was very happy. Somebody called me and says that this is the topic, can you present it? I was seriously thinking, wherever the client I am going, this is the same thing I am telling. This is the same thing in a way, in an informal way I am telling them, these are all things are there, you look into it. I think this is a right topic. Maybe I request them to have more topics on internal audits going forward. So at least members can be little bit oriented, and I think they can take it to the client and accordingly they can convince them so that there is a benefit mutually.
Obviously, this topic is important for the non-internal audit teams so that they are aware of the benefits. They can tell the client, suppose the moment there is a above 50 crores turnover where statutory auditors has to report on the IFC, right? If you are compromising there itself about the controls without having the documentation, you are certifying it. That means you are allowing the client to grow where their mistakes could be continuously executed.
That's what is going to happen. Because if statutory comes at the end and say that, boss, give me IFC, and if I don't want to qualify, but definitely you will not be able to qualify based on various factors. And then you wanted some support from an internal audit, that's where the client will come and ask internal audit and give some certificate. I think if you do this, if you keep as a statutory allowing this, next year also same issue. After that also same issue. Whether turnover is 50 crores or 200 crores, the same issue is going to come up. And at one point of a time, then you will get a situation of resigning. That I am not going to take any more of these related party transactions or this kind of an hanky-panky things. I can't continue and I will resign it. that situation we should not create it. Maybe the starting itself you have to align them and tell them, boss, you streamline yourself. Anything else, sir? Good, sir. Thank you everyone.
As we all know, internal audit is a very important aspect of our profession, and if I can say, internal audit is an extended arm of the management of the organization. The CEOs, CFOs and other managerial personnel would be very good in their own areas like marketing, technology, manufacturing, whatnot, but the whole management of the organization needs someone who can be independent to the management and be as critic as possible. Help them in getting their mistakes or divergence from the laws identified and then let them get corrected. If the management thinks that internal audit as such is for their own benefit and listen to and adhere to the internal auditor's findings, the organization can grow leaps and bounds. With that backdrop, let's all of us put our hands together for the time and effort of CA Ranganayakulu sir for bringing his experience and expertise together for today's session. Thank you so much, sir. On behalf of members present here and all the managing committee members of Bangalore branch of SISI, we would like to hand over a small token of gratitude and respect. Can I call upon CA Geeta Madam, our SISI Vice Chairperson, to do the honors? Please. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. And thank you one and all present here. Thank you for your time and support for Bangalore branch programs. Keep supporting us. Thank you.
Thank you.